Welcome to the Carers WA Carer Representation Program training module on communication and assertiveness. Requests for training about communication and assertiveness have been raised in our annual Carer Representative Survey a number of times. So, in this module, we will look at different styles of communication and tips for being assertive in meetings. So first of all, what is communication? Oxford Dictionaries gives us a definition: the imparting or exchanging of information by speaking, writing, or using some other medium. Human communication is the sum of its parts. There are a number of key elements to good communication. There can be a problem at any step, and that leads to miscommunication and misunderstanding. Communication starts with the source or the sender who initiates the communication. The skills, perceptions, and knowledge of the receiver contribute to the effectiveness of the communication. The message is the subject, theme, topic, or ideas being communicated. Encoding is formulating a message in a way that is meaningful to the recipient. The best outcome is achieved if the sender can see the message from the recipient's point of view. The channel is a means of transmission. This could be spoken, verbal, via media, or by visual decoding. Decoding is how the receiver translates and understands the message. This can be done using verbal and non-verbal cues from the sender and/or by relating to previous experience. The recipient receives the message. Effective communication takes place only when the reaction and response of the receiver is that which is expected by the communicator. Feedback is a way to let the sender know how the message is being received. This can be done using active listening principles. Focus on the speaker and what they are saying. Acknowledge or clarify your understanding of what is being said by nodding or by repeating or paraphrasing key points. Feedback can also be in written form. So, what is one-way communication? This is a method of communication used most often to give factual information or to persuade or manipulate the receiver to act in a certain way. The benefits are that if used to provide factual information or be directive, it doesn't hinder the message. For example, a police officer diverting from danger. Please step this way. Disadvantages include a loss of input and feedback and possible morale problems in committees or workplaces. One-way communication is a message from the sender to the receiver. Some examples of one-way communication include a lecture, a directive, a newspaper, a website, radio, and television. Interpersonal communication is not just about what is actually said or the language used, but how it's said and the non-verbal messages sent through your tone of voice, facial expressions, gestures, and body language. Most of us engage in some form of interpersonal communication on a regular basis, often many times a day. How well we communicate with others is a measure of our interpersonal skills. In a committee, we may sometimes feel like we're being moved along. How could you handle this? Well, you could emphasize the importance of your point. You could ask to have the item placed on the next agenda. Or you could address the issue outside the meeting with the chairperson and/or the support of Carers WA. As well as giving full attention to the speaker, it is important that the active listener is also seen to be listening. Some signs of active listening are making eye contact, nodding, facial expressions like smiling, minimal encouragers such as, go on, yes, but don't overdo it. Not interrupting, being patient even when there are short silences, and giving a speaker time to explore and compose their thoughts. Give appropriate responses, be culturally appropriate, maintain an open posture, and mirror the speaker. Great listeners are best placed when they're neutral and non-judgmental. Verbal communication is the most common method of communicating. This could be by way of formal or informal discussions or just conversations, at presentations or when delivering speeches. The words should be clear and the meaning of the sentences has to be properly defined. You should always try to speak with a positive voice. Avoid monotone responses or talking too quickly or too slowly. Be as clear as possible. This has the potential to aid you in your role on committees. If you are genuinely upset or angry, this can make it difficult to control your use of both language and paralanguage or voice signals. If this happens, you should speak to someone after the meeting or contact Carers WA to discuss. Nonverbal communication includes facial expressions, posture, bearing, stance, and subtle movements. And interestingly, there is strong evidence that facial expressions for happiness, sadness, anger, surprise, fear, and disgust are the same across different cultures. We're now going to look at different communication styles, such as passive, aggressive, passive-aggressive, and assertive. So what does passive communication look like? Passive communication includes compliance as a way to avoid conflict, being easily persuaded, hiding your true thoughts and feelings, and maybe saying yes when you want or need to say no, for example, agreeing to attend a meeting for someone even though you really don't have the time. Some of the reasons that people might respond in a passive way include they're wanting to be liked, they're people pleasers, they don't want to upset anyone, they're feeling guilty that they'll be letting someone down if they don't comply, and that they're not particularly confident or feel that they're equal to others. Some of the negative results of acting passively include a workload that just becomes too great to manage, a sense of being unequal resulting in low self-esteem and confidence, becoming unreasonably resentful of others, setting yourself up to fail, and just burning out. Some examples of aggressive communication include forcing your needs or opinions onto others, bullying or pushing others around, shouting or talking louder than the group, openly displaying anger or making threats, being manipulative to get what you want, and by making you statements, such as, "You should have done this." So what response do you think you'd get if you communicate in this manner while trying to get a point across? People will shut down, they won't listen, they'll soon lose respect for you, and your behaviour will impact on the other participants and the efficacy of the meeting itself. Then we have passive-aggressive behaviour. This is a combination of the two previous behaviours. For example, someone asks you to do something, but your workload really doesn't accommodate it, so you might say, "Yeah, that's fine," but your inflection, tone, or body language is showing aggression. And the most effective form of communication is assertive communication. So what is assertive communication? It's expressing your needs clearly, but respectfully. It's treating others with respect and taking others' needs into consideration and being willing to compromise. It's about building positive relationships and using clear language to get your point across. The concise Oxford Dictionary defines assertiveness as forthright, positive insistence on the recognition of one's rights. In a committee situation, an example of this could be by asserting a carer's rights under the Carers Recognition Act 2004. In general, assertive people get to a win-win situation more easily. They see the value in their opponent and in their position and can quickly find common ground. Assertive people are better problem solvers. They feel empowered to do whatever it takes to find the best solution. Because of this, they tend to be less stressed. They know they have personal power and they don't feel threatened or victimized when things don't go as planned or expected. Assertive people are doers. They get things done because they know they can. They act fairly, show empathy, and inspire reciprocal, given in return, response in others. They use I statements when communicating, and we'll have a look at that a bit later. And assertive people also make excellent leaders. Some good techniques to develop an assertive approach are to assess your own style. Do you voice your opinions or tend to remain silent? Do you say yes to additional work even when your plate is full? Are you quick to judge or blame? And do people seem to dread or fear talking to you? You need to understand your current style before you can begin to make changes. Practice saying no. If you have a hard time turning down requests, try saying, "No, I can't do that now." Don't hesitate, be direct. If an explanation is appropriate, keep it brief. Rehearse what you want to say. If it's challenging to say what you want or think, then practice. Say what you want to say out loud. It may even help to write it out first. Use body language. Communication isn't just verbal. Act confident even if you aren't particularly feeling it. Practice assertive body language like maintaining eye contact in front of a mirror. Keep your emotions in check. Conflict is hard for most people. If you feel too emotional going into a situation, wait a bit if possible. Then work on remaining calm. Breathe slowly and keep your voice even and firm. Start small. Practice your new skills in situations that are low risk to begin with. For instance, try out your assertiveness on a partner or a friend. Take some time to write down your communication style and any areas that you think you could work on, and use this as a reminder. Another good technique is to use I statements rather than you statements. I statements often yield better results in verbal exchanges. For example, "I need more information to make a decision" sounds much better than "You need to give me more information before I can make a decision." The reason the I statement sounds better is that you are saying what you need rather than telling someone what they should do. Using I statements lets others know what you're thinking without sounding accusatory. For instance, say, "I disagree," rather than "You're wrong." Try, "I want," or "I need," or "I feel," rather than "You must," or "You should." Two key techniques that can aid assertiveness are known as fogging and the stuck record technique. Fogging is a useful technique for handling criticism. Rather than arguing back, fogging aims to give a minimal, calm response using terms that are placating but not defensive, while at the same time not agreeing to meet demands. Fogging involves agreeing with any truth that may be contained within statements, even if critical. By not responding in the expected way, in other words, by being defensive or argumentative, the other person will cease confrontation as the desired effect is not being achieved. When the atmosphere is less heated, it will be possible to discuss the issues more reasonably. This method is called fogging because the individual acts like a wall of fog into which arguments are thrown but not returned. For example, "What time do you call this? You're nearly half an hour late. I'm fed up with you letting me down all the time." A fogging response might be, "Yes, I am later than I hoped to be, and I can see that this has annoyed you." "Annoyed? Of course I'm annoyed. I've been waiting for ages. You really should try to think about other people a bit more." A fogging response might be, "Yes, I was concerned that you would be left waiting for almost half an hour." "Well, why were you late?" etc., etc. The broken record technique is also a good tactic. It employs the key assertive skill of calm persistence, where you repeat what you want time and time again without raising the tone of your voice, becoming angry, irritated, or involved in side issues. Continually repeating a request will ensure the discussion does not become sidetracked and involved in irrelevant argument. The key is to stay calm, be very clear in what you want, stick to the point, and don't give up. Accept a compromise only if you are happy with the outcome. You may not always get what you want, but at least you have handled the situation assertively. A good tip with the broken record technique: if you use it to protect yourself from exploitation, that's good. However, if you use it to bully someone into taking action that's against their interests, it can be manipulative and dishonest. Try this activity. You can pause the screen if you want to have a bit of time to think. Have a look at these 3 scenarios and jot down how you might respond to them. The first scenario is a friend asks to borrow a book. This is the 3rd time they've asked to borrow a book from you, even though they haven't yet returned the other books. How might you give a passive response? The second scenario is where a colleague asks you to stay back and help with a project, but you actually have social plans. What might be an aggressive response? And lastly, say you're asked to read and comment on a lengthy document by the chair of the committee, but you only have 2 days before the meeting when they want your feedback. How would you deal with this situation in an assertive way based on what you have learned today? The best way to be confident and assertive in meetings is prepare, prepare, prepare. Ask yourself, what do you want from the meeting? Make notes, check the terms of reference, previous minutes and agenda beforehand, and write yourself out some dot points as prompts. Practice and rehearse. Think about how you want to be perceived. For example, how you might use body language to project self-confidence. And be confident. You are the lived experience expert. Communicate clearly and directly. Try and avoid apologising for your point of view. Be direct but not abrupt, and speak confidently. You could try the newsreaders technique where you speak almost in bullet point language so that you get to the point, explain things, but don't ramble. And you can always contact Carers WA Carer Representation Program staff to help you prepare. For example, if you want to know how to get something put on an agenda or you need information on a particular topic to take into a meeting, we're here to support you. Thank you for participating in the Communication and Assertiveness training module. Please contact the Carer Representation team on 1300 227 377 or carer.representation@carerswa.asn.au if you would like more information, support, or if you have suggestions for future training modules.